Hi, Caitlin. We're going to take a look at your uh, hosting for emphasis, a little bit of observation, feedback. So we'll jump right in. So the overview information that I spoke about, the project in general in that first video, kind of tells the story about what we're trying to accomplish with the project. So here I'll be talking more about individual photographs, some of the things that I'm observing about your imagery. Hopefully that will be help on some specifics that I'm saying. First of all, as I'm looking at an overview, I'm noticing a very, very strong sense of shape and movement. You seem to be really drawn to the use of grouping and shapes. And so the first couple here where you're pretty far away are probably not quite in the wheelhouse there. Now, this happens every so often where the images are really tiny. I'm not exactly sure. We haven't run down why that is so, but I'll just stay on the regular view. So as you can see here, I mean, it gets a little bit, in the way when you have such a strong sense towards shape, yet there's very little to work with in terms of shape. However, I think you handled it pretty well in terms of organizing some structure. You place this on basically the half and half. I mean, it may be a little bit higher, but you're creating a dichotomy here. The energy between the top and the bottom are supposed to be equal. But then you have this tree here that is the kind of at a third or maybe a quarter there, which is creating some tension against this big group. That's a good thing to be creating those sort of varieties of tension in the different spaces. So you handled the nothing there kind of scenario pretty well. But I do want to come down here to look at some of your shape stuff, because I think that's where your real strength is. An image like this is a really powerful image where you're getting a lot of movement, you're getting a lot of energy. There's a couple of things to fine tune it, but otherwise, I think this is sort of really something that you should kind of take a look at more. This kind of stuff in the future as you keep making images. Here, moving down the stairway like this. Really good use of the space and of movement. Whether you knew you were using the phi grid or the golden ratio, you really are. So what are some of the ways you can improve these even more? Well, if we look at a basic frame, a picture, if we had nothing in it, if it was just a square, what we would end up having is blankness. But the most interesting part of that blankness would be the corners. The corners of that object would be the most dynamic, because that's the only thing that has energy. So when we're composing, we don't tend to address the corners very much. We don't necessarily need to address the corners very much. I mean, we pay attention to them, but we don't have to like actively be trying to put things in them. So we want to basically avoid having energy and objects aiming toward the corner on that diagonal. And here on this image, which is really working well, we're getting really close here to this corner. And so a lot of the energy is being sort of pulled in this direction like that, pulled over there like that. And so we don't want to have that. So if this was pacified, if it was just turned this way just a little bit, so if this was turned so that these two elements were more over here, turning it that way, you'd still get the overall energies, the overall kind of feel, but you would pacify that directional kind of conflict there, and your eye would be able to move around it a little bit more. So that's just a little fine-tuning thing that as you see these things coming up, to try to avoid. You see what I mean? This is what I'm talking about right there, how this doesn't come over here to the corner. This is much better placement of that, although this is a bit more dynamic of the images. This is a better placement of that angle because it's not creating the tension that you're getting from that corner. The same thing's happening here, where this is kind of going into the corner. We want to try to avoid that when we can. It doesn't destroy images, but it kind of interferes with the energy just a bit. It's tricky to do that because you're paying attention to so many things that there are times when it seems like, oh, I got the perfect image, but that's going to the corner. How am I going to? It is one of those things that you continually are looking to satisfy. You know, writers have certain things that they're looking to avoid doing. There are certain things that sort of trip artists up, and in a photograph, aiming like very strong diagonals toward those corners. That's one of those things that come up, and we try to overcome a lot. So I think, you know, you're doing quite an interesting job here. I would have liked to have seen how you addressed getting really, really close to some things. I think the closest that we're getting is probably right in here. It would have been good if we had seen you on, especially and as we see it, really close up on stuff, you know, not worrying about stuff that would be in focus or necessarily even an object. It would be just textures or just shape or something like that. Exploring that is a really healthy thing to do, especially when you're working with photography, because it's so linked to rules, right? It's so linked to what we expect a photograph to be, and to kind of explore that as a way to sort of loosen up the preconceived ideas of what a photograph can be is a good thing to be doing. So if I were to say, you know, anything there would be, let's get in there and start like maybe making some photographs that are outside of your comfort level, where we're doing like really close-up stuff and not even paying attention to whether it's in focus or not at first, and then sort of starting to bring it back from there. So that's basically what I have. Hopefully that was helpful. If you need any more clarification on some of the things I talked about, I would be happy to talk to you. And we'll see you in class. All right. Bye-bye now.